This next video is on arrays and classes. So when we create an array, when we create a class, we are actually creating a new data type, right? So since it's a data type, for instance, let's look at int. When we have int, we can actually create, an int array. Oh, sorry, I'm using some Java. All right, we can create integers. We can also create, integer arrays of however many size we want, right? So we can actually do the same whenever we create our new data type, right? Whenever we have any abstract data type, um, let's say date, then if I wanted to, let's say, make a calendar, right? Then I could just create a date array. I can call it calendar, right? And then that has 365 dates in it. And that will automatically create an array of dates. So that comes automatic. There's nothing that we need to do. We don't need to overload any operators. We don't have to add any different functionality to our class in order to do this. If you recall, inside our deck class, right? We had our deck class, and this was to represent a deck of cards. And inside that deck class, oh boy, technology problems. Sorry about that. Inside of deck class, we had a private memory variable called, it was a type cards, right? And then we actually had our deck, which was going to be 52 cards, right? So this particular part of the book is actually covering being able to make an array of your class, and then also showing that you can actually put arrays in your class. And so I think the deck assignment actually is a good example of both. If you notice here, we have a array, which is kind of the essence of our deck class, right? That is our deck. It's an array of cards, right? This is an abstract data type that we created. So we actually show an example of how it's able to do both. If deck for some reason was not, if for whatever reason we wanted to make deck a public variable and not a private, even though I don't think we should, but I'm just going to say in the case that we did, and then we wanted to create a deck inside of our main function, let's call it deck D, then we can actually access and use that function, that deck, like we would do any array, except for we would have to call the member variable. So let's say we wanted to output, I don't know why that keeps happening. Let's say we want to output each card in that deck. We can just say for int I equals 0, while I is less than 52. I plus plus. And then we could say C out D dot deck, right? Because then we can say D dot deck I dot get value. And then we could do something like C out of, and then we can do another one, C out D dot deck I dot get suit, right? And then this would, for each card, it would output something like Queen of Hearts. Right? That would be an example of what it would deck out. Excuse me, what it would send to the console. So notice when I call deck I, right, I'm actually calling an index of the array that's inside of my class. And since each object has its own memory variables, then this is the deck array that belongs to the object D. If I were to create any other objects, let's say that I decided I wanted to create 2 deck of cards, uh, then when I say deck I, I'm only referring to the deck that belongs to D, and the D2 is not being touched at all because each class has its own set of member variables and member functions. All right, and so let's just talk about what this is, right? If I was to have an integer array, right, and let's call it array, and let's say I made an array of 10 integers. If I said C out array 0, right, what exactly is array 0? Right, what is array 0? What is the data type, right? What is the data type? And I'm hoping everyone is saying, hey, what do you mean? It's an integer, of course, right? Because yes, this is an integer. This is nothing but an integer when I call the index, right? An array is just a number of indexed variables, right, of whatever data type was being declared. So if my deck is declared as a deck array, right, then deck 0, right, what is the data type here? And I'm hoping everyone was saying it's a card, right? This is a card, right? So that means that if this is a card, then I can call all the member functions and all the member variables of my card class, because all this is all deck is a indexed array of cards. All right, and that's pretty much arrays and cards. I think I forgot to say the secret word, and the secret word is puzzle. All right, so just to do a recap of everything that we talked about, um, we talked about that you can actually, whenever you create a data type, then you automatically have the ability to make an array of that data type. For an example, I have a data type named date. If I wanted to make a calendar, I can make an array of dates to represent my calendar. We also talked about being able to use an array as a member variable of your class. And in this example, we talked about the deck class having a array of cards. And then we talked about, since I have an array of my data type, then when I get an indexed variable of that array, then it will give me the data type of that array. In this example, I have a deck of cards. I have 52 cards, and so when I get one of the index variables of deck, it will give me a card, and that will allow me to use any of the member functions or member variables for the card class. All right, so let me just write that down. All right, and that is pretty much this video.